Subscribe today, Tommy, if you love movies.
Hey, look at boobies! I like movies. Hey, Cinema Gulp, where are ya? Help!
Hey, take it easy.
But I lost Cinema Gulp.
Stay calm. Just go to YouTube to subscribe and hit the bell for all the latest videos.
Hey, we're Cinema Gulp and we drink your cinema.
Thanks, Joe. Now I can subscribe.
And subscribing is half the battle.
You know what? You don't have an answer for that, do you? F you, man. I'm sorry.
I like beer. It makes me a jolly good fellow.
Hey, remember when?
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Cinema Gulp's Hump Day Happy Hour. Triple H, if you consider Hump Day one word, which we do. Ben sends his love from a far-off place that isn't here, but have some fear, Elvirus is here.
Woo! I did not dress as Elvirus because that is a Halloween thing, I decided.
I know, but I like superhero names, so I ran with it. We may even be graced by the presence of OG John, so we are holding the fort with true cinema gulpers. And I thought that this evening we'll be talking about the weekend box office, my new physical media acquisition, the major Marvel cast reveal for Avengers Doomsday, and to tie a bow on the show, we'll be knocking out our top 5 favorite horror flicks. Sound good?
Woo!
All right. Well, welcome to everyone here, if you are in fact here. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm doing good. I have a dirty martini with me. How about you?
I am doing hobo cup of wine. So
I'm trusting there's wine in there, Scotty.
No, it's just straight gin. And I got a chaser.
By the way, the olive in here is a white cheddar cheese stuffed olive.
Ooh. I'm a big fan of the blue cheese stuffed ones.
I understand. I'm not a blue cheese person, but I understand.
Fair enough. Well, I'm glad that we have beverages, and it's good to see Jill in the chat. Hey, Jill.
Hey, Jill.
Thanks for hanging out. So I guess we'll start off with the box office because everyone's been abuzz. I don't know if you've been on the internet punditry sites talking about how much they dislike the #1 movie at the box office.
No, go ahead, tell us.
Snow White, the Rachel Zegler Gal Gadot Snow White flick, and it's #1 with $42 million. And I guess this is a financial issue. Do you ever really care about, like, aside from the top 5, kind of like a Billboard chart, do you care how much a movie has made to consider it to be good?
No, I don't. I mean, I feel bad if it didn't make a lot of money and I considered it to be like really good. I feel bad for them, but that's not what I use to determine like a good quality movie.
Well, yeah. Like I was disappointed when, because I went and saw Furiosa. Mm-hmm. And when it didn't do like bang up blockbuster stuff, I was just like, oh, that sucks. I wish it had done better. But if something like tanks, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But yeah, people were very angry apparently. And dancing on the low performance. #2, which is Kat said that this is one of Steven Soderbergh's best movies of recent times. Black Bag is in at #2.
I've heard about this one. I really want to see it. I probably will this weekend.
Yeah, well, I voted. I'll tell you at the end of the list, but I voted with my box office dollars this weekend, and I don't know if I'm any better than any of the people who went to go see Snow White. But I enjoyed myself.
You're better than everybody.
Thank you very much. Flattery will get you everywhere. #3 is Captain America: Brave New World. Topping up at 192 million. I don't know.
Did you see it?
I did see it.
I liked it.
Yeah. I thought it was fine.
I don't know why everybody hated it.
I don't either. It was just run of the mill Marvel with Hulk stuff going on. I liked it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
whatever. And again, people are saying it has to make like $100 billion to make back all of its reshoot stuff. And so it's like, well, I don't care. Ticket was still the same price for me. Novocaine dropped to number 4. It was number 1 last weekend, but dropped to number 4 with 15,700,000 in total ticket sales over its release date. And then in number 5 is Mickey 17, the Bong Joon-ho with Bobby Patts.
I saw that one. I did not see Novocaine yet. I do want to see it, but I did see Mickey 17 a couple weeks ago, and it reminded me of Moon. I don't know if you've seen Moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those were the kind of vibes that I was getting off of the trailer too. So
yeah.
But, yeah, I'm interested to see it, but again, because I feel like it's something that I've already visited. And so it gives you the vibes of Moon, but how does it differ?
Oh yeah, I mean the story is still way different. It's kind of like Moon combined with the Groundhog Day.
Oh, cool.
And there's other like social messages. It gets kind of political, and it's not all shot in like how Moon is just like all in one place basically, like
right.
Literally. Yeah, so it doesn't have that either. So yeah, I haven't seen Moon in a long time, but yeah, it's definitely different from it. It's just like it reminded me of it with the the duplicate
sure
the people and stuff like that. So it was cool to visit that part of the concept again, but no, it's still a different movie, and I think it's worth seeing. So yeah,
recommend.
I did enjoy it.
So I went to go see the number 7 movie in the country. I went to go see The Day the Earth Blew Up, starring Porky Pig and Daffy Duck.
Yes.
And it was one of those things. I was driving to the movie theater and I'm like, I'm such an idiot. I want to support this movie because the possibility of this movie's success will inform as to whether or not Ketchup Entertainment gets to or assists in bringing Coyote versus Acme to the light of day. And so I was like, okay, I want to help this out, but I'm driving and I'm like, I'm an idiot. I'm a middle-aged man going to see a cartoon at 4:00 in the afternoon on a Monday. And as soon as I sat down, and this is also why I don't care if movies make money, because the theater was completely empty. It was just me. And then 2 more people came in and I was like, boo, I wanted a private screening.
Yeah.
But as soon as I got there, sat down, started watching it, it just brought such a smile to my face. It felt like Looney Tunes. Obviously, differences just because it is of this era. It's very current and topical, but it's not like a DreamWorks pop culture reference fueled thing. It's really funny. And there was a part, I guess this is spoilers, but there's a plot element where they need eggs for something. And so Porky tells Daffy to start laying eggs. And I was like, wait a second. Daffy Duck is a boy.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there and I was like, did they make the Looney Tunes woke? Is Daffy Duck now trans? And at the end of the movie, it's like, do you have any idea how difficult it is for a male duck to lay eggs? And I was like, yes, you pulled it all home. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but yeah, I didn't want to gender swap Daffy Duck.
But I do believe that even if you are trans, you still don't have eggs.
I don't know any of this stuff. Again, all I get out of this is people criticizing Snow White movies. That's where I get my scientific information.
Right.
But yeah, so fairly humdrum. But again, I think when I was talking to Kat last week, they said that it was the worst box office in years from last weekend. And so perhaps it's a trend. I will want to say hello to Protein. Hey, what's going on, Protein?
Hey.
Snow White lays eggs. True story. So I did get to see that, and I would recommend it. Like, if you're a fan of Looney Tunes, check it out. It's fun. It is exactly what I needed.
That's great. I actually watched some old Looney Tunes just the other day, just purely by coincidence. And there was a really really cute one that I didn't remember. It was like a big mean dog was trying to scare this little kitten, and the kitten didn't get scared, and they became like best friends. It was just adorable.
I remember that because he does he's trying to make his bed kneading on the dog's back. Yeah, no, it is very adorable. I do like that one, but it's strange though because Warner Brothers apparently, HBO Max or Warner Brothers or wherever they do their stuff, like their streaming stuff, they took off all like the classic, Looney Tunes stuff, and I don't know why they're so angry at Looney Tunes.
I heard about that. I watched it on a disc, but yeah, that I heard about that same thing. Really weird.
Well,
I don't get it.
I don't either. But now I want to go. I acquire the holes in my Looney Tunes collection. I think I have a couple of the classic discs, but yeah, they do have a pretty nice box set of all the classic ones. But
maybe I'll ship you a box.
Ooh, I do like presents. I did also receive something in the mail. I've been talking about this over on Anti-Derivative Jill's show, but I wanted to show it off because there's I didn't even know this was a thing, but there's something I wanted to pat myself on the back for.
You will have an ice cream headache.
So glad you have access to doing that.
I know. I love the buttons and the videos and everything. Ben puts a good show together, and I'm glad he gives me the keys from time to time. He gives us the keys. Where do you want to go? It's finally here.
Ooh.
Supergirl.
Cool.
2-disc special edition. Audio commentary. This is one of those things that I am always a big fan of. I know I've shown you in the past. It has liner notes.
Very nice.
It's got the full booklet with the tale of Supergirl. And I think that there's an apology letter in here from Peter O'Toole. But just talk production stuff. And it's got 2 versions. It's got the international version and the extended cut, too.
Very cool.
And, yeah. I looked for it at my local video store. If you're in Southern Ontario, hit up The Beat Goes On. They had it, but it was $40.99.
Wow.
Now, I checked, and it's from a third party, so it's not just Amazon. It was from a local distributor as well. This one was $20.99, and I found out that it's a limited edition pressing. They only did 50,000 of these, and I have a pretty low number.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
That's just luck of the draw. Didn't even know that was going to happen. But yeah. And Protein, you're absolutely correct. Cool that you have that, but it is the worst movie, man. It is. It is very bad. But I wanted to get it because, again, with Warner Brothers sort of, being willy-nilly and scrubbing some of their stuff and not feeling too confident in the state of streaming, I wanted to get this because it did have the director's cut and the international cut. And I thought that would be an interesting sort of curio to have. Plus the audio commentaries on there. I figure, it's a terrible, terrible movie. It's not one of my favorites, but it's still a superhero movie. It's still, I like seeing attractive people do incredible things. Watching Faye Dunaway ham up everything is just a delight. Peter Cook being in there, like there are just so many. It's a showcase of people that you never get to see. So I was very, very pleased. And I get to watch it 4 times. Once without the audio commentary for both, and then once with the audio commentary for both. Oh we shall see if I survive.
Yeah. What year was that movie, Scotty?
I believe it was 1985.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I believe it was 84. I think it was my first movie in the theater ever.
Oh, no way.
I think so.
That's rad. No, I remember it, and it was I remember seeing it just as we would go to the video store on weekends and rent the VCR as well, and that was one of the first bundles of it. It's like, well, I like Superman, and so we watched that. My sister liked it, Supergirl, that is, and then I was like, that was so boring. And then I revisited it obviously this weekend past, but I did it because I did see a YouTube reviewer say, here are the differences that you can get with these movies. Now, does it help? Does it make it any better? No, not really, but it's interesting if you want to seek it out. So
yeah.
Pardon me, I just had to turn off the sound on my phone. But yeah, so I only got that guy, but I was very, very pleased. It'll go on the shelf beside the Chris Reeves.
Great.
Then in superhero, oh wow, what's this? Protein says, speaking of superheroes, clips are now coming out of the Batgirl movie. Wow, that's interesting. And I heard that one may have been almost finished, but like whatever production, they just basically stopped. Whereas with like Coyote versus Acme, it's finished. It's done. They just don't want to release it for some reason. And so that's, that's a shame. But it'll be interesting to see some of the Batgirl clips just for Brendan Fraser if they show him. But in other superhero news, there was a 5-hour live stream today from Marvel Entertainment. And it was basically every 15 minutes, they would pan over to a different actor's chair labeled on the back of who was going to be in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday.
Wow.
And it went for days and days and days. And it's interesting to see who is in here. There are some shockers. And I will do actor's name and then their character's name. So, and I'm gonna butcher some of these actors' names, but I do know how to pronounce the character names. So we got Robert Downey Jr. coming as Dr. Doom.
Okay.
Chris Hemsworth as Thor.
Right.
Vanessa Kirby is going to be the Invisible Woman, because this will take place after Fantastic Four. Anthony Mackie as Captain America.
Okay.
And Letitia Wright is as Shuri, the Black Panther from Black Panther 2. Then we got Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova. Ebon Moss-Bachrach as The Thing, Ben Grimm. Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. Haley Atwell's back as Peggy Carter. Get out. No, I didn't even see that one. That's rad. Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch. Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. Louis Pullman as the Sentry. And that's going to be from Thunderbolts, I think. Tom Hiddleston is back as Loki. David Harbour as the Red Guardian. Hannah John Kamen as Ghost. Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent. Danny Ramirez as the Falcon. Did you like the Falcon in Captain America Brave New World?
Oh, yeah. That was cool.
He was fine. Other people said that he was annoying and stuff. I was like, I thought he was okay.
Oh, I don't know. Everybody hated everything about that movie, and I just didn't. So you'll have to ask somebody who's a hater.
Yeah. No, I'm not at all.
Yeah.
I am not at all a hater on that flick. Then we got Kelsey Grammer is back as Beast. Winston Duke as M'Baku. Tenoch Huertas as Namor. And that is all I got.
Okay.
So that is apparently, yeah.
Did you say people were mad about something?
Oh, wait, no. I forgot to say, it was Ian McKellen is in there as Magneto, and Patrick Stewart is back as Professor X. I think Rebecca Romaine is coming back as Mystique.
Yeah.
And, the guy who played Nightcrawler, Alan Cumming. So Oh, yeah, Protein. I'm sorry, I did miss all the X-Men. Those are the ones. Sean Ashmore. No, not Sean Ashmore. The guy who played Cyclops. Oh, yeah. Channing Tatum is going to be in it as Gambit, I assume. Like, it just goes on and on and on. I'm wondering.
Yeah.
And I know that they released the runtime of the show, of the movie, but I don't know. That's a lot of characters to have to dance around with.
That is a lot. That is a lot.
But like, even for Endgame, it was because they all came together at the end. It wasn't like they were all in it all the time. And they did balance with Infinity War. Anyway, is that enough of a stacked cast for you to be interested in going to see the new Avengers film?
No, I need more famous people than that.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see Benedict Cumberbatch, so no Doctor Strange, which is weird.
Yeah.
No Mark Ruffalo, so no Hulk.
No Hulk. Weird.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be surprises.
Well, and that was the other thing that I was curious about is when you do have all of these people, and I know they're like, I've heard people talking about Marvel and being in like a rebuilding phase, and that's why things are sort of safer. Like, that's why they're doing like sort of a Guardians of the Galaxy Avengers kind of thing with Thunderbolts or Suicide Squad, whichever way you want to look at it. Fantastic Four, and then just put everybody and Robert Downey Jr. back with the Russo brothers directing. So it just seems that they're really trying to throw everything at the wall to try and please Marvel fans, which is, I hope they can do it. I really hope they can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Side note that you reminded me of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I read recently that Batista is going to be starting to go for different roles now, that he's, I guess the current roles are not working out for him anymore. So he's going to be going for different types of things from now on. So
I remember seeing him at the Toronto International Film Festival, just press of him there, and he looks like he's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, like it was intentional. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. But
yeah, he's coming down.
I've enjoyed him as an actor.
Oh yeah. No, well, I'm a wrestling fan, so he was a wrestler for me first, and I was already a fan, and then he started acting, and I really enjoyed seeing him in the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was so funny. Like, he was hilarious to me. So I loved the role, and I loved anything I've seen him in. The Knock at the Cabin. I don't know if you saw that one. But yeah, I pretty much like everything I've seen him in. But I guess he's going to be going for something different starting now, and I'm wondering. I'm curious to see what ends up being.
Well, and I enjoyed his performance in Blade Runner 2049, brief as it was, but like sort of more of a nurturing, sensitive portrayal, and not just, as you said, like being a wrestler, you can get typecast into being meathead villains. And he did a really great job at doing that in Dune 1 and 2.
Sorry, yeah, you just reminded me. Also, speaking of which, did you see the Last Showgirl? He was in the Last Showgirl.
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, he was in that too, and that was a different role. So maybe that's kind of the beginning of the direction that he's going to be going in. But it was a little bit more of a regular guy,
Well, and I liked him in Glass Onion as well. Like, I think he does have range, but he's sort of not to harp on a cliche or something, but he does end up getting sort of typecast based on his physicality. Like, and I kudos to him for not wanting to be The Rock.
Right.
Like, there is range there. How was he in Knock at the Cabin?
Oh yeah. I liked him in that too. I think it showed even more range. It was a little bit like quiet, It was I don't know if he's done another kind of creepy guy before that or not. But yeah, so for me it showed another little dimension for him. It wasn't really like the favorite thing that he was in for me, but I think he did a good job.
There we go. There's the question. What is your favorite Batista movie?
Oh, I think it's Guardians.
Okay, fair enough. 1, 2, or 3?
I know. Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't know. I can't choose.
I still haven't even seen. I haven't seen part 3 yet.
It's a tough.
I've heard it. I've heard it's good. But challenging based on what you're going in for. A lot of animal manipulation, cruelty, if you will.
Yeah. It's a tough one to watch. I'm a huge animal lover, and it was a tough one to watch, but I'm glad that they made it in terms of for awareness purposes.
Yeah, that's why. Well, it's funny because we're going to start talking about horror movies in a second, but there are certain movies that I do stay away from just because I'm afraid of the emotional response that I'm going to have. It's like for the longest, okay, so when I saw E.T. for the first time,
mm-hmm.
E.T. leaves at the end, bawled, just cried like a baby because I was a baby. So then it came out on. So then it came out on VHS, and I watched it, and I was like, "I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry." And I cried like a baby when E.T. left.
And how old were you for that?
That I would have been 10 or 12.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then, hadn't seen it since then, since it came out on VHS. And I got it in because I was buying my DVDs in like a box set, just a lot of 100 movies.
Yeah.
There's E.T. And I'm like, all right, I don't like you and you don't like me. And I watched it, and I'm not going to cry. I didn't bawl,
okay.
But I was very consciously aware of the fact that I was choking back tears. So my soul is not completely shriveled. I
understand. Yeah. I always try to hide when I'm crying. And it's just in the corner, like.
Yeah. But so, yeah, no, I completely understand because there are movies. Like, I was terrified of Jacob's Ladder.
Oh, that's a good movie.
It is a good movie, but I was terrified by the trailer. And I was like, I'm never going to see that movie. I'm never going to see that movie. That thing looks way too intense. And then I watched it, and I was like, this is great. Yeah. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. And it wasn't as scary as I had built it up to be.
Right. Yeah, that's a great movie. I hadn't thought about it in a while. I used to own it and let my old chiropractor borrow it, and I don't think I ever saw it again.
I hate it when that happens.
I know.
Protein in the chat says he was my favorite part of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Fellow builder.
Cool.
Excellent. But yeah, he is, and I don't know, is it age and the what we're just used to? He looks sickly. I don't know if he looks sickly. Frail, maybe. I just think that maybe I wasn't used to seeing him without the bulk.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Maybe it's just an adjustment for us. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's what
I hope he's happy. That's all that matters.
I love him.
So I know it isn't Halloween. We officially passed the spring solstice. So what better time to get into the Halloween spirit?
Yeah, that's true. We're only 2 seasons away now, because now it's summer and then fall.
Why can't you have pumpkin spice in the spring? It's basically the same temperature.
I agree.
Maybe it's a harvesting issue. I'm not sure. But yeah, I wanted to get together and talk horror movies, talk something that we could rap about. I know that you have a lot of thoughts, Elvirus.
I do.
So we were going for, was it top 5? We were going for top 5.
Yes, I shot myself in the foot because I'm the one who said top 5, and then I started gathering a list, and it was way too long, and I was like, "Why did I say top 5?"
Because you wanted to kill your darlings. You had to find the ones that you really liked. But you
Right.
said something. You said something interesting, just in regards to the subgenres of horror
Yeah.
movies. Now, perfect, right on time, just like a wizard.
All right. Hey, are you ready?
Hey,
Hello, sir. How are you?
good, doing well.
Excellent.
To
Excellent.
Joanne's question, my background's not set, so no, I'm not ready, but I'm gonna do it real quick. You guys, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Did you need another couple more minutes in the
No,
dressing
not at
room?
all. I don't
Okay.
have any backgrounds. I'm just gonna pick something ridiculous.
Love it. Perfect.
There we go. That's always pleasant.
I
Good
like
one.
that.
Yeah, let's go with that. That's pleasant to look at.
Oh
the
my
whole
God.
All right. That's a good one.
What
I
is
gotta
it?
add that to my list. Damn it! I didn't even put that on my list.
It is Pet Cemetery, right?
Is it Pet Sematary?
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
But so I think that's the part, John, we were just talking about doing the top 5 and how the parameters of top 5 have sort of have eliminated a lot of the good ones that we would still admire. And I kind of wanted to throw them into subcategories so that we can do top 5s of all. We can keep listing until the cows come home and create another drop list.
Yeah.
However you want to do it. I wrote down a number of movies, but
Yeah.
let's rattle
I
them
did
off in
too.
whatever order you want to go with. That works for me.
Perfect. Well, and I don't have.
I'm sure we're going to share a lot of similar movies, but also if we're saying enough movies, there will be some gems in there that each of us love more than others and want to champion.
Well, and not only that, but also maybe some of the movies that I've chosen aren't necessarily regarded as horror movies. I just find them scary.
Oh, there you go.
I think if you do, probably other people will. And while you were on the subject of the subgenres, Scotty, if you wanted to, you can encourage people in the chat to type in their favorite subgenre of horror, because that was one of the challenges I was coming across when I was coming up with my list. You know, like originally we said horror. I usually first think of slashers, you know, and I do like slashers, but then when I was coming up with my list of favorites, I didn't really have that much slashers on there in the end. But I do like slashers, so it's just a weird thing. But anyway, I'm just interested to hear people's if they have favorite subgenres of horror, because there are a lot of subgenres.
Zelda.
Do you guys have certain subgenres you had already kind of pre-selected to talk about, or no?
Well,
No.
See,
And that's
I guess
part
I'll kick it off a little bit, just because I find this to be the most terrifying movie I have ever seen. It is not a slasher. It is not supernatural. I just think that it is a de-evolution of the worst of human addiction, and it scares me every time.
Requiem.
Requiem.
Yeah, it is kind of a psychological horror movie to some degrees, but
and
not
I just
in the
find
traditional sense. I get it,
and that's what I mean, is that it's like it. I don't know if people would consider it to be a horror movie, but I just find that even the way it's made at the end with that driving music and everything getting absolutely worse and everyone is circling the bowl. I just it gets me every time. It doesn't hurt that most times I watch that, I am stoned. So it just, the dread pours over me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can agree with it being labeled. I mean, I would not put it in my horror section, but I think when you get down to what you get to see and what that story is all about, yeah, it's a horror movie.
I thank you. Thank you. I was expecting derision.
No. I can get on board with that.
Yeah,
it just made me think about, like, thankfully we did get to see Aronofsky do his own version, like a true horror movie with Black Swan, and it ended up being my favorite movie of that year. 2010, I want to say. So I can actually look at Requiem now, like thinking about when you bring up it as a horror movie. It's like all the aspects that do fit that description. It's like, nah, yeah, you can go there with it if you want.
Mm-hmm.
I would call it a drama just in my own personal labeling, but I'm pretty broad with how I label that. So,
well, and yeah, I can understand both sides, and it's just the way. Again, it's the pacing and the way that I respond to it. I find it terrifying because it's actual tangible. It's not like a boogeyman or anything. Not that there's, and again, it's just it's a different sort of appeal to what is terrifying to me. The things that I think are plausible. It's like, but then again, I wouldn't what, that Ryan Reynolds Buried movie. Like, I'm incredibly claustrophobic, but I wouldn't consider that to be a horror movie.
Yeah. I mean, Thriller comes into play on certain movies like that and stuff. But as you were talking about Requiem as a horror movie, it was making me think, like, what's another movie that kind of fits that description of, like, it's not truly a horror movie to most people, but to me it would be. And I would go with Irreversible.
Oh yeah, I watched that.
that's like the feeling after you're done, like, oh, I had to watch that. Oh my god.
What a terrible movie. Yeah.
But kind of art. Like, it's not really what I want. Like, it's not totally my thing, but I have to agree that it's like, that was art, but how they put that together and how they pulled off some of that imagery that would make you feel like it's a horror movie, what you have to witness in that movie. How those scenes were acted and or choreographed, because a lot of it is one take stuff. It's just like, it's kind of mind blowing. I have to credit it as art in that way, but yeah, I don't even think I own that movie. It's not like, usually if I like it even as much as I'm talking about right now, I would possibly own it. I don't think I do, but I got to respect that movie. And I would say it kind of fits that description of, it truly is a drama. I'd probably put it on my list as a drama, but it gets in your psyche like a horror movie does.
Yeah, for sure. So I know what you're saying about the art, but my thought, like, while I was watching it, and specifically while I was watching that scene that felt like it was just going on forever, it's funny that thought was actually the opposite of what you just said, which was, I was like, you know what, I hate people passing this off as art. That was what I was thinking. But I do understand, like, because because that's not the only thing in the movie. The whole movie, the movie as a whole.
There's more to that movie than just the one scene. There's more than just like the 2 or 3 scenes, because there's like 3 big scenes, but the rest of it is still like a well done. It's not a horror movie, but a drama.
Right.
But yeah, that director, like, when you're saying the feeling you had was like, why do people pass this off as art? I feel that way about probably 90% of that director's other films that I have seen. I actually have missed out on a few because I've gotten to the point of like, this is not art anymore with his stuff to some degree. But yeah, he's made some wild stuff that I haven't seen, but I've heard people talk about, or I've watched videos on, where it's like, it sounds like he's still doing his shtick of like pushing the boundaries and stuff I don't think I need to sit through.
Yeah.
But he's still coming up with creative ways to tell stories that are unlike other people's approaches to filmmaking. But I haven't sat through some of them. There's one called The Void, I think, or something like that. Into the Void. One called Climax.
Yeah, okay, that's the one I was going to ask you. So that's the one that had the dancing. I haven't
seen those ones, but
I liked the one that had the dancing.
That's
it was
Climax, I believe.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But I used to take dance classes and stuff, and I really appreciated the dance parts of it. I enjoyed that one more than Irreversible. It did have some bad stuff in it, but
I was going to say, I've heard that one labeled slightly as horror, possibly. Did that one come across as a potential horror film?
Yeah, I would say it would be more closely labeled as horror than Irreversible.
Yeah, I mean, I've had an interest to check them out because they're unique, and I have liked some of the stuff, or been fascinated by the stuff he does. I don't know. He's definitely acquired taste, and I haven't always acquired it, but
Right.
Gaspar Noel or something is his name.
Yeah, Gaspar Noé.
Gaspar
Noé.
Gaspar Noel.
Want to say hello to Franco Walker in the chat? Yes, who says please subscribe, hit that bell, share and like, and select live chat.
Nice.
So that you
Thank
can
you
yeah, Franco, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for
nice shout out. So Scotty, do you have others that you would say are not traditional horror movies but scare you?
Well, like I was gonna throw Seven in there. But that's more of my response to the people who I saw it in the theater with, because there were two middle-aged women who wanted to see Seven. They thought that they were going to see A River Runs Through It too, and then they ended up bawling. They were just devastated by a lot of the things that happened in that movie, and I was like, I don't think that they knew what they were getting into. This could be a horror movie. And
they thought it was a Driving Miss Daisy and River Runs Through It together. It's like, no,
they were there for Brad Pitt beefcake. they did not get it.
No.
But then there are others like The Wicker Man. Like The Wicker Man
labeled as a horror. I actually have still never seen it. It's kind of one of those movies that enough of it seems like it's been spoiled that I haven't rushed to watch it, even though I hear it's pretty great.
Yeah, I discovered it and I was sort of curious about it. I think it was around the time that the Nicolas Cage version came out and everyone said it was terrible. And I was like, well, I might as well just go watch the original. And I watched it, and it's just the building of tension to the climax of The Wicker Man. And it really is, again, it's one of those ones that is terrifying to me because it's just being the one person who isn't in on it. And you go to a community and they all turn on you and there's no one can help you. It's kind of like a Texas Chainsaw thing when you go and the more you get to meet people, hell is other people and they all turn on you and you are the prey now. Like, I find that really terrifying, more so than, I don't know, Satan. Well, because the devil is showing up in these people and it's like, but then on the same token, something that is definitely regarded as a horror movie, I love Event Horizon. That shit is crazy. But I just love the body horror of it. I do have sort of things that could happen for real horror movies, and then things that cannot. Like, I know there's nothing wrong with ghosts. There's nothing wrong with, aliens or whatever. Like, monsters could be. So, and that takes me to like even those classic. Like, I just did a run of the Kat and I were talking about the classic Universal horror movies. And they're hour-long episodes, essentially, because they were made in the 30s. And they're more quaint than scary now. But they're still, because they're classic horror movies, they're still considered to be horror movies.
Yeah, yeah. They're of their day. They were horror movies. If you compare them to what else was coming out, they were pushing boundaries, I guess, for their day. But yeah, they're very tame. Watching them now, Frankenstein's probably my favorite of that era.
Yeah, man.
The first Frankenstein. I'm not such a big fan of Bride of Frankenstein. It gets a lot of love. People say it's even better than the first one. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it just comes across campier to me, and I really like the expressionist style. You still get it in that film, but like the first one is just such a, I don't know. It just sticks with that gothic style more than the second one, I guess. And I don't know. I've never really gravitated to the second one, but I know a lot of people love that one, the Bride.
I do. I actually, because I saw it for the first time. I saw it in October, and did a double feature. Did Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. I think it is one of the most perfect double features that I've ever sat through, and it doesn't hurt that it's like an hour and 10 minutes. Followed by an hour and 10 minutes. It's basically one movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it in that regard, but that was the first time that I saw it. So, yeah.
Well, what are other subgenres that we're going to go over or we're considering?
I think we're doing it. I think this is a work in progress and all the gears are moving.
Well, we were gonna, the main topic was just top 5 horror movies. But what I was saying about the subgenres is like when I was trying to limit my list down, because I had way more than 5 when I was, compiling my favorites. I was like, there's so many different subgenres. So I was just curious, Scotty, has anybody put in the chat any of their favorite subgenres? I was wondering if
the only thing, no, not as of yet, not as of yet. But Franco Walker is heading out. It's late, 2:11, and I'm drunk and tired. Sorry, need to go to bed, but thank you for the shout out, yo. Take care, everyone, and much love. And of course,
well, yeah, the subgenres of horror can go on forever because they get really niche if you really want to go down that road. But in the broad sense, like monster movies, psychological horror movies, slasher movies, ghost or paranormal. Sometimes the ghost and paranormal and like religious horror movies kind of intertwine a bit, but
those are the scariest for me. And I was telling Scotty, I kind of like usually avoid watching many of those because they're actually scary for me.
Yeah, I get that, and there's a lot of those that work for me really well too. But
Protein is saying their favorite is slasher.
Good.
I always feel like slasher is one of my favorite. I agree with you, Joanne. I feel like it's one of my favorites, but then I'm trying right now in my head to think of like what are the quality slashers. There's a lot of fun slashers. There's a lot of iconic slashers, but like how many of them are really quality? Because that's where like my top movies always, I personally try to think my top movies have a pretty strong level of quality, and it's hard to put like a Friday 13th movie anywhere near the top of those lists. So
I had the same exact experience on my list. I hardly ended up with any slashers, even though, when I thought of this topic, I was like slashers, but then when I was compiling my list, I didn't have very many. But I'm all, if someone says, let's put a slasher on, I'll always watch it.
It's more like you could call it a guilty pleasure, but it's for fun. Like slashers are just serious fun.
Mostly for fun. One that I did have, on my list that I didn't make my top 5, but, I was considering it. And I just saw it recently was Hatchet. It was so fun.
I didn't see it till recently?
I didn't see it till recently, just a few months ago. And it was hilarious. I loved it.
Super gory.
It was gory, but it was funny and cool story. And I want to see the sequels.
I've heard they're not good. I've only seen the original, but I've heard they're not. I don't know. I may have heard them from people who are being more critical than they needed to be or something, but it seemed like they said the first one is really the strongest of the bunch.
Okay. And it's to me a strong, fun movie. But in a creative way, one of my top 5 is a slasher, and that is Jaws. So that is a monster movie slasher.
Yeah.
Especially if you count the sequels, because he keeps coming back and he's like picking off teens in the later movies. So yeah. And he's got a name, Bruce. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, if you think about everything, it is a slasher movie, and people get picked off and people don't know what's happening to those people, and bloody, gory, it's a slasher and a monster movie. So that is one of the movies that overlapped one of my on the previous list that you guys did with the best of the decade. That was one of my favorites of that decade, and it is also one of my top 5 horror movies.
Yeah, I always sort of perceived Jaws, because I was taught it was a slasher monster movie.
Yeah.
But there's something about the John Williams score, especially when they're on the orca at sea. it comes off as a nautical adventure to me. I don't get scared with it anymore, but I do understand. Again, it's one of those things where different perceptions.
But have you ever been scared while you were in the ocean by yourself shortly after watching that movie?
Sure.
Okay. So
Shortly
it's
like
after
one
watching the movie, 45 years after watching that movie, I'm still freaking scared in the ocean.
yeah. Yeah, it's a cool one because it's just one of those that really, change what people did in their actual daily lives.
Yeah.
So,
I'd say it's one of the most effective movies ever made.
yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I mean, if we're just gonna spoil things, it's my number one horror movie. So
Jaws is?
yeah, so
Wow.
I consider Jaws a horror movie. It's a monster movie in my view. And I know you're like, I can get behind the whole slasher thing, but if we were truly like labeling certain movies with what subgenre, personally it would fall in for me. It's always been a monster movie. It's like the most classic of monster movies.
It is, but that is
created
a horror.
a template. Not that there weren't already films that kind of had the template that Jaws followed, but it really set in stone the template for most monster movies of like have that first kill to establish the monster, but don't see it, and then like build up and whatever. Like the way that movie progresses is what most monster movies try to emulate after it came out. And so Jaws, I know, I agree with you, Scotty. It does have that element that feels like an adventure movie, especially when you see what Spielberg could do in the adventure genre throughout his career, in not just in Indiana Jones, but across a number of films, that he can give that feel of adventure and excitement. And that's there in Jaws. So I have to agree with you that like it is a movie that can be all of those things. But when I get down to like, what is it most for me? It's a monster movie.
Sure.
So in terms of our subgenres for monster movies, I would pick it as my number one. But in my actual rankings of favorite overall horror movies, I guess I have to take one step back and say Aliens is a horror movie.
Yeah,
I have to like it's also a mixed sci-fi horror. I almost call it sci-fi horror more than I call it sci-fi action. Everybody wants to call it action. It has like 3 action scenes, but the tone of the movie to me is a horror movie. But I can kind of get behind. I'm not going to call that my favorite horror movie because it's my favorite everything
movie.
It is everything. Honestly, the label I like to give it the most, which is kind of too niche to it needs to be more broad. It would be like sci-fi if I was sticking with broad. The niche genre that I like to label it more than anything is survival. That's why I love it the most, is it's like this survival story that just sucks you in so much and gets your heart pounding, even if you've seen it a million times. And you care so much about those characters and their survival, whether you know their fates or not. So I'm going to move on from Aliens, which you all know is at the top of my list. And when I get farther down, the next horror movie is Jaws. I didn't want to go spoil that. I was going to kind of go in a different order. But since we're talking about Jaws for Joanne and we're talking subgenres, I'll throw out there that Jaws for me is in the monster category, but it's my number one.
Awesome.
Wicked. Hey, Bumpmaster 1 says, hey, John.
Oh, hey, thank you. What's up?
And Protein says, Hatchet rules.
Yeah, I agree. No, that was good. So all 3 of us have given one of our top 5, I believe.
Yes.
Right, Scotty? Requiem was. What's another one for you then, Scotty?
In my top 5?
Yeah.
Or what's another subgenre? Wait, let's do a subgenre and see if he has one.
Sure.
In that.
Sure.
Monsters. Do you have any monster movies in your?
The Fly.
Yeah, it kind of fits that description.
Sci-fi also.
Personally, I label it body horror as its number one genre. I would put it in, but
sure.
And sci-fi.
A subgenre. Yeah,
if
sci-fi horror.
If we're going body horror, then it's obviously going to be. It's obviously going to be the Human Centipede.
Definitely a body horror.
Definitely a body horror. No, if we're going monster movie, I would say that that's the one that's the most terrifying. because the first victim is the monster. It kind of has that. And Cronenberg, obviously, like with the special effects and the way that he just transforms Seth Brundle and melts a guy's hand and busts a guy's wrist. And like, there's so much in there. And the tension that is built, I don't even think that there is a moment of levity. It's always overcast. There's just something oppressive. It feels gray because it is, and you know things are going to get worse even when they are slightly for the moment getting better. Like it's one of those things that people complain about marketing for movies, and it's like, you spoiled it. And it's like, no, this movie is about the Fly. We find out about how he becomes the Fly. He's gonna be the Fly, guys. It's in the title. So I really, yeah.
Have you seen the original? I've never watched it, but
I've seen bits of it. It seems it's too like it's one of those things where it's interesting to see at the time. It's like watching The Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's like, yeah, I'm sure this was scary.
I really like Creature. I consider it to be one of the best of that era.
Well, and speaking of monster movies, that's probably one of the biggest of the granddaddies.
Yeah, but it's like 20 or 20 years later
than
Frankenstein. A lot of advancement in filmmaking that makes it stand out from what you get from 1930 to 1935 or so.
Well, what year? What year was
like
it 30? Yeah, no. But because a lot of the Universal, they're called the Universal monster
movies.
Movies.
31, and then they were making them every year. So it's like all through the 30s into the 40s. By the mid to late 40s, they were getting into the Abbott and Costello ones.
Yes. The first cinematic universe.
Yep.
And, but yeah, but those are like the Mummy. The Mummy's a monster. The Wolfman's a monster. Frankenstein. If we're gonna compartmentalize,
like they
I guess,
it
says it right in the thing. It's Frankenstein's monster. So yeah, he's a monster.
You could technically, and I have to agree with this, but you could technically even say that like Freddy Krueger's a monster. Jason, they're all kind of monsters to some degree, but
yeah. That's true.
Everybody kind of sees it slightly different, but then certain ones have their label. It's like most people would agree that Freddy and Jason and Michael are going to fit slasher more than anything. But
yeah, because they're more human, more human.
Well, I think all of them are supernatural at this point. I don't.
Yeah, but they're human form, like not as creature.
Yeah. Well, the Fly is a human form until it's not.
I know. Yeah. No, there's gray areas on all of it.
Like. And I don't think that I would have a problem with, in terms of slasher, putting the original Friday the 13th up there, because it's Jason's mom who's got it going on. It's not.
Linda Cardellini is going to play her in a TV series. Going to play Mama Voorhees.
Huh. Well, I like Linda Cardellini, but it's also, they did that for like Bates Motel. They did sort of a prequel thing with that, and I've heard okay things with that.
Yeah.
So,
and that's probably their approach. Take it serious, not as campy as the movies, I would think, but
well, and the story of the original with Jason's mom getting revenge on the camp counselors or subsequent camp counselors. Like, I think that's a terrifying story. The special effects are great in it, and the performance by, I don't remember the name of the actress who plays Mrs. Voorhees, but it's a good movie. Same with, I think, for the original Halloween, like, big ups to John Carpenter, but like, I think that one can count in terms of technical expertise as well.
That one's quality, even though it really is a super low budget movie. It does meet that standard of one of the more quality slasher movies. It's a little dull after seeing it enough times. It's effective the first couple times for sure, or whatever. It's effective anytime you see it because it's just well made. But it is a movie that once you know all of its tricks, it can feel a little bit dull. I lean into Halloween 4 as my more rewatchable of the series, although The Halloween series is kind of my favorite of the slasher bunch, but I think that 4 is probably my favorite to rewatch, and is like the easiest to put on and get the full Halloween experience. Although the mask sucks in that movie, but it's still kind of my favorite Halloween movie.
I still love in Halloween 2 how most of the action the third act action takes place in a hospital. And at the end of the movie, an ambulance shows up to take Jamie Lee Curtis to a different hospital. I thought that was hilarious.
Because it burned down. Yeah.
But you reminded me, John, I was also curious that if people could put in chat, this is the last time I'll do this, because I don't know if you guys think it's annoying, but I'm always curious what people's favorite slasher is between Freddy, Michael Myers, Jason, or somebody else. So if anybody wants to tell us, I'd be interested to know.
Well, I think people consider those the big 3, Freddy, Jason, and Michael, but then, there's kind of been a big 4 before some of the other names started coming along. Leatherface was usually included there, but I think he's fallen off a little bit, even though there are a number of Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. It's got as many as most of the other series at this point. But yeah, then you got the Chuckies and Scream that kind of worked their way into the iconic status, I would say.
And Art the Clown now, he's like,
there's an attempt at a new breed, I would say.
Yeah.
Candyman, the Leprechaun.
Leprechaun.
Yeah. But yeah, I had Candyman on my
really
honorable mentions.
Nice.
Not on my top list, but on my honorable mentions list.
Yeah, that's good.
And then of the kind of the main slasher group we talked about, Jason, Freddy, Michael, Chucky, and then like Scream, I would say.
Yeah.
Scream and Child's Play, the first 2 movies in those series, I think are really good movies. Like quality, great movies, great scripts for Scream. Chucky is actually scary. The first film is actually pretty damn freaky. But also still hilarious because Brad Dourif, like, even though that one's really serious compared to the tone of the rest of the series, you still get some really great humor in that one too. So
yeah, he's hilarious, and the TV show is great too. If you like him and you have time,
I haven't seen the TV show. Oh, he's the voice in that. Oh, that's cool. So at least he's still real.
I love him.
But like, I think Scream and Child's Play, the first films, are quality. But then like the other series, like, well, I guess Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1 and Part 3 are pretty quality as well. But
I really like 2.
There's not really any Jason movies that are quality.
Well, you're not even counting the first one.
No, that one's one of the lowest quality in my opinion.
Okay,
pretty piss poor.
Okay.
I mean, I like a lot of them. Part 4 is probably my favorite of that series.
Sure.
4 and 6 I really like. But I don't think any of them are really quality movies, like where you would put them anywhere close to your top echelon of horror movies. They're fun horror movies. If I was talking about like just favorites based on rewatchability and good times, there's ones all over the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th and Halloween series that I would throw in there. But
well, yeah, but that's also, I don't know. I want to chalk a lot of that up to 80s horror sensibilities, because like I really like April Fool's Day, and that is a silly movie, but it purports to be a horror film, and it's not. Like, even in the end, that's one that I'm not going to spoil. If you haven't seen April Fool's Day, give it a go. That'll turn you on your head, and you'll think you're watching Clue. But
Joanne, have you seen it? Have you seen April Fool's Day?
No, but April Fool's Day is in about a week or so. Maybe I should watch it.
Well, next year, because we do these yearly based off of the year they came out. It came out in 86. Next year for Bloody Good Year, we have a episode that revolves around April Fool's horror movies. So
Nice.
wow.
obviously that will be included.
Set your watches. Mark your calendars.
Next year. Hey, movies advertise a year in advance. Why can't we?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. I wanted to say hello to Lemon Pie in the chat. Hey, Lemon. Howdy, Scotty,
Hey.
Joanne, and John. It says your badge says Cinema Gulp. Looks good says Bates Motel is excellent. Vera Farmiga as the mother is superb.
I've been wanting to see that.
And I like Vera Farmiga. Lemon Pie says, I'm late to the party, but has The Exorcist already been brought up?
Not yet.
So there's a teaser.
Yeah.
And
I actually left it off my list. I mean, I know that it's one of the top horror movies, but I was just kind of like, I feel like in terms of rewatchability, I rewatch more of these other movies I put down here than The Exorcist.
Can I tell you something funny?
I did
Never
the
seen
same
it.
thing, John.
You said that last time, and I'm kind of like, how do you miss seeing one of the most talked about movies of all time?
You know what the worst part about this is? Is that a friend of mine, Phil, Black Philip Alvarez?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
He sent me a copy of it on Blu-ray. I've got this killer set, and I haven't cracked it. And
You're
this
scared.
I'm scared.
You'll be able to handle it, but
I know I will. It's also a bit of an excuse. I just haven't had the opportunity. Anyway, I will. I promise. You know what? We're going to do a very special retrospective on The Exorcist next year.
Have you seen part 3?
Yes.
No, part 3.
You did see part 3. Okay. Because you don't need to see part 1 to see part 3.
Right.
But I was wondering if you have any experience with Exorcists at all. But.
Yeah. No, I saw part 3. I like Brad Dourif and George C. Scott.
Hopefully you haven't seen part 2.
No, I haven't seen part 2. But I will, though. Richard Burton, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Richard Burton. Directed by John Borman.
Really? That fascinates me. I'll see if
honestly, when I watched it, I was like, it's as bad as people say, but I found it to be filmed really well. Like cinematography was actually pretty interesting in a lot of scenes. And there's just some strangeness throughout the movie that like captivated me more than everybody's harping on how bad of a movie it is. I was like, there's moments in the movie that it drew my interest. And I thought it was filmed really well. But overall, the story they're telling and what happens in it, it's doesn't even make a whole lot of sense to be a sequel to The Exorcist. So it is a bad movie, but and a bad sequel to a great movie. But I don't think it's at like the worst movie ever, which a lot of people will throw it on that kind of list.
Bumpmaster 1 wanted to say that Jason X is quality.
Joanne, do you remember our experience of seeing Jason X?
Yeah.
One of the only times my cover was blown. Joanne, how many times did I personally get away with smoking weed in the movie theater and not getting caught?
Many times, but wasn't it also
no, more than many, like thousands, right?
Thousands. But then the Purge, didn't you also purge everyone from the theater for the Purge?
Did I? Oh, yeah. That was much later. I did get caught another time. Yes, you're right. But it was because of Danny that I got caught. Our buddy Shaggy. We tried to both get away with smoking. My way of doing it. If I'm alone, if I'm by myself, I always got away with it.
Yeah.
We got busted. And then we're sitting in the theater trying to pretend we hadn't smoked. And they're like standing there next to us, like, we can tell, we can smell, everyone saw it. Like,
and everyone's coughing.
but we just sat there and pretended like they weren't talking to us and they left us alone and we finished the movie.
Right. That's all I remember about that movie.
Yeah. Well, and that it was terrible. I do remember that.
I remember a couple of scenes. That's about it.
It's got one of the best kills of the whole series, though. The liquid nitrogen face smash or whatever is on the list of one of the best kills in all
That
slashers.
was cool. That was a scene I remembered.
Yeah.
All right, I got to step away for a second. I will be right back. Continue, please.
All right. Well, before you walk away, what's? Oh, never mind. What subgenre do you hate?
What
we'll
sub?
talk about that. What subgenre are you more interested in?
Yeah, we'll talk about that when I get back.
Okay.
I think the problem is he's scared of horror. He doesn't really like horror that much. He's not scared. No, but I don't think it's his favorite. So the ones that he listed are I think maybe many of them are going to be like iffy as far as being horrors.
You mean he doesn't delve into watching every horror movie that comes out like so many of us do?
Think so, yeah. No, we'll find out. He can defend himself later, but I think his list is going to be iffy.
We'll see. I know Scotty's seen a ton of movies, and he's always the stuff that he sometimes is his favorites are a little bit. Not everyone like. I think you and I are going to have some of the same picks as we get down to it because we've already brought it up on other shows and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's his will be definitely in a different direction, I imagine. So we'll see.
Right.
But yeah, what are some other subgenres then that do you have another one that you want to pick that's from your top list, or we'll wait for him to come back to bring that up? But like, do you have other honorable mentions that fit other subgenres, or what subgenre were we just talking about, I guess?
So yeah, we were just talking about slashers, I guess, last, right?
Oh, okay. Well, what were some of your favorite slashers then?
So favorite slashers, I definitely like I put Hatchet on there. And I actually think that was the only slasher I ended up putting on my list. And I have about like 20 movies on here or so.
See, that means that stuff like Nightmare and Freddy or Jason and Michael, they didn't make the cut. Like they're iconic, and you've probably seen a ton of their movies, but they don't make the cut at the end of the day.
I know.
More interesting, more well-made horror movies out there, and definitely more psychologically damning horror movies.
Yeah.
Those
exactly.
the ones that affect you are the ones that usually are going to make it to the top of your list.
Right. So the one, it was a difficult exercise for me because now I have some that really affected me that I put on my list of 20. But then when I was trying to get it to the list of my top 5, I didn't put them in there because they affected me too much. I don't want to keep rewatching them and stuff like that. So a couple of those, one of them was Hereditary because I watched Hereditary like last year. Finally, I had avoided it for a long time because I was told it was very, very scary. And it was probably the one that scared me the most, like since The Ring. And The Ring was the first one that actually scared me in a very, long time since.
Why is it scary to you?
Hereditary or The Ring?
Yeah, Hereditary.
Hereditary. There was, a couple of the scenes that really stuck with me. Where she's like basically possessed and like just running really fast. That's creepy.
So it's just the creepiness of some of the effective scenes, because there's tons of effective scenes, but just the creepiness of it. Because I was wondering about the religious aspect. It's not so much pointed at Christianity in any way, but like the
cult.
It's Satanism.
Yeah.
Because that's what affected me the most. Like I saw the movie, I had heard the hype. I didn't see it. It came out in the summer, and I didn't see it till Christmas Eve. I think I finally watched it. Which was
what a great Christmas!
I was just like, I'm gonna watch it. It was either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, or maybe 2 days before Christmas. But it was right in that period of like, why am I finally gonna put it on now? But I did because I needed to like finish seeing this movie that is really important for the year. You know how I am
right.
to watch movies and get these important movies seen, make them part of my conversation or whatever. So finally sat down to watch it. Didn't want it to be spoiled, and I had let so much time pass. And it did kind of shock me. I can watch tons of movies without really being that affected, but the scenes that are meant to shock you worked. Yeah. But I was like, okay, I got to the end of this. I don't buy into how all the pieces fit together to make everything work. I know there's a cult working behind the scenes to pull strings, but it was a little too perfect, in my opinion. So I knocked it down a bit in my initial viewing of like, it was effective, it's good, it's artistic, but I don't buy it. And then it wasn't that scary because of that. Then I looked up Payman is real. And
Yeah.
everything they talk about in the movie about Payman comes from the lore and literature of this. Not real because you and I are Christians. We don't necessarily believe in it, but it's written out there since like the 16th century or whatever, like whenever.
So that made it scary.
Then it was like back to like, okay. And what they say about it is that that he can make things happen. Like that's one of the things they believe about him is that he can make kind of the impossible happen and trick people in ways that other demons can't pull off. And it just was like, okay, well, that kind of gives credence to how they could pull off some of this stuff. So then the movie went back to being like, oh, it works. The movie actually works. So it went back to being a very scary movie.
Right. It is very scary. Scotty, did you see Hereditary?
I did not see Hereditary, and it's not because I chickened out or anything. I just didn't get around.
With The Exorcist of like, it's effectively scary.
Well, I can't.
Well,
I
probably don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, no, but it just becomes a matter of where I'm going to find it, because I don't know if I'd want to buy a copy of it, and then it's chasing it down for streaming services, and I don't really subscribe. My streaming budget goes to my physical media hoarding, so I don't get. I know. Well, I can check. I think I have Amazon Prime right now because I ordered Supergirl. But I'll see if I can catch up with it, because if it is an effective horror movie with sort of more realistic situations, then that's my jam when it comes to what I consider to be the scarier ones.
That was my problem with it, was it's not realistic in my opinion without me researching, which I normally could care less to do. I don't even remember what kind of forced me to look up whether Payman was real or not. But I may have watched another reviewer who mentioned it or something that took me down the path of like, okay, and then when I started reading that stuff and connecting it to what they show you in the movie and show what the people in the movie are capable of, it just made it that much. Then it became believable. It's still a movie and it's not believable because no movies are believable. You know what I mean there, but like I could get on board with the story they were telling, which when finishing it was like, that went too over the top by the end. None of that could be possible. But
now
I had to realize that there are people who believe this stuff to make me believe it a bit more.
Well, did you guys ever see Midsommar?
Yeah.
That's the same filmmaker, and it's still a really good movie, but Hereditary is 10 miles above it.
Oh, okay.
Did you see Midsommar, Scotty?
No.
Oh, okay. You seem scared of them all.
Midsommar's not scary at all.
No.
Yeah, it's very different type of movie.
But it's not, I don't think you would find it it's not scary in my opinion, but maybe.
But like going back to like The Wicker Man, I think that those would be the ones that really would affect me the most, is those cult movies. It's the people who are trapped, surrounded, like Red State.
Midsommar. I think you should see
Midsommar
it.
is cult. Yeah.
And even speaking of Christianity and whatnot, and seeing what can be twisted in sort of a Waco, Texas kind of thing with Red State, like Kevin Smith's action horror, Christian horror, like but I found that one to be effective just because of, well, if you wrap a person up in cellophane, you've got my attention. And so like that kind of everyone standing around cheering on your demise, like that's terrifying to me, knowing that there are people around who could help, but they choose not to. And then watching their reactions to what they perceive as a trespass that you have made, kind of thing. Even like, and that's what was so effective at the end of Wicker Man, is he's like, oh my God, being a devout Christian in the face of these pagans. And it's like, no, you're not getting any help, pal. Sorry. And it's like, damn it, that sucks.
I think you need to watch Midsummer, actually.
All right, I'll write that one down too.
Yeah, I think Midsummer, Hereditary is a different experience. And if you're somewhat hesitant about something like The Exorcist, I would say Hereditary kind of goes in that direction. So maybe I would be hesitant for you to see that. But Midsummer, no. I mean, Midsummer has disturbing moments and creepy moments, but I don't think that they classify really as scary. But who knows what, might actually be considered scary for you. I don't know.
So I'm gonna change this around, because right now when you guys are talking about me and horror movies, I feel like mom and dad are in the front seat being like, I don't know if you can rent that, Scott. You're gonna be up all night.
Did you find Poltergeist scary?
No, I thought
it was PG.
Yeah,
I find it very scary. It's just about what scares you, That's another thing I'm always
well, technically we're all allowed to watch it, even the kiddos. I don't agree with that rating. I don't know how it ends up with a PG rating.
I know. Yeah, no, that's one of the scarier ones for me.
Yeah, I think it's one of the scariest movies ever.
Yeah.
The clown, the person peeling their face off.
The face off.
It's just there's so much of that movie. The tree eating the kid,
But see, I find it's not directed by Spielberg. Who directed Poltergeist?
Tobe Hooper.
Tobe Hooper, same guy as Chainsaw.
Texas Chainsaw. Funhouse. That was a fun one of his.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something about that movie that was, I don't know, special effecty for me. And so I liked it, but I haven't really revisited it because I put it in almost the same category of, oh yeah, that's scary in the same way that Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is scary. Seeing a guy have his heart ripped out is scary, and then he's immolated, but it's more about it's not totally scary. It's just showing off what we can do with our special effects, which are great, but that divides, that takes it away. The first Evil Dead, I think, is great. That's in my top 5. And I find that, even though you asked earlier, it's what are my least favorite, ghost, haunted house, those kinds of things. I'm okay, it really has to do something interesting to get me and The Exorcist scares me because it is sort of more grounded in modern understanding of spirituality. So it's if you believe in God, you believe in Satan kind of thing, demons, possessions. But something like Paranormal Activity, it's waiting for something that it's jump scare. It's a jump scare milkshake.
Yeah. Not a fan of those movies personally.
Yeah.
I guess that's a subgenre, is found footage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw the Blair Witch Project, and I was
Did you see it in the theater?
No, I didn't. I saw it on video. But no, because it came out in what, 97? 99? So it would have come out on video in 2000, and that's probably when I saw it.
But by the time you saw it, you were aware it was just a movie, right?
That changes the experience altogether. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was as well, but there was still question marks. I saw it on opening weekend, so
yeah.
And I waited in a really long line for that movie. People did not expect that it was going to blow up the way that it did. But I was there on that opening weekend and checking it out, and I had already seen the website that they had, and was questioning what the fuck is reality with this movie. So I got to watch it with that experience, and it was definitely pretty effective.
Yeah.
Because the filmmaking feels real. The acting feels so real. They pulled that part off to a T. It felt the way a documentary is shot and made. All of the interviews with the townspeople felt real. It just had you questioning when you left. Did I just watch reality, or is this Hollywood? I mean, not Hollywood, but is this, the movie magic?
Right. Is this a documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm also a rational person. Is like, there's no way they would air this. Like the families, we would have heard about this in the news in some way. We wouldn't have heard about it as like a movie first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it is a fascinating movie just in its marketing, in the way it was presented. Like I often give The Matrix gold star for being the best marketing of all time, because it says in the trailer, it's like, we can't tell you what The Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. So that's like selling tickets. And it's like, this is the closest that there was, the way that they presented it. It was a paranormal snuff film. It's like, who's not going to want to see that? So it did a really great job with the marketing, and especially early adoption of internet viral marketing and things like that. Did you ever see Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen pretty much all of it, but yeah. Terrible. And I mean, you can't really catch that lightning in the bottle again to just like make a sequel that was done the same way, but their approach was so strange and had nothing to do with what we all sat through in the original film.
Right.
Well, and I think that it was an interesting conceit in just being, okay, now that we all know that the first one was fake, let's treat the first one as being fake. I think that's an interesting jumping off point. It's just the rest of the movie was terrible, although the cast was very, very attractive.
That gives points for Scotty.
There you go.
If I remember correctly, the people who directed that, or maybe I forget if it was two guys or one guy, they had made a documentary about the West Memphis 3, like these 3 boys who were accused of satanic murder, and it didn't seem like I think they were still in jail when the documentary was made. I think they've now been released or whatever. But like during those days, those documentaries were pretty compelling. They had made like 2 up to that point about the West Memphis 3. So when I heard, oh, those are the guys who are going to make a sequel to the Blair Witch, it was like, oh, their documentary style, which was already really compelling in these other films and felt kind of like horror movies because they were talking about this really, subject of murder and Satanism. There was kind of a horror element to their documentaries. I was like, cool, we're going to get something pretty cool out of that. And then they just made a regular movie that sucked terribly.
Yeah.
I had that on DVD and I listened to the audio commentary, and to hear the director talk about making his first big budget Hollywood movie and figuring that he was going to be able to use his skill set from documentary filmmaking. And he was like, I don't even know why you hired me. You won't let me do any of the things that I'm good at.
That sucks. That really sucks, because he could have done something cool.
Yeah. No, but it is like back before everything got sanitized and audio commentaries actually had the actors kind of talking
ripping
shit
on the studio.
The directors, saying like, I don't know what the hell that was. Like, but
some studio notes right there. I had nothing to do with that.
Exactly. But that entire commentary is him just saying, we tried to inject all the way that I had known how to make a documentary. That's why there's this stuff at the beginning with like whether or not he killed everybody, and there's all this stuff in the hospital, and it's like we were trying to do something, and the studio kept saying, can you lock it down? No, don't do that. Don't do that. And I love that sort of behind the curtain peek. I enjoy it. But yeah, it could have been good, but it was a bad sequel. Jaws 2 has entered the chat. Bumpmaster 1 says Book of Shadows had boobies though. True. Very true. There's an entire orgy montage. And looks good, says Texas Chainsaw. Great slasher. Yeah.
Right.
Now, I was going to say, like, as a slasher, Psycho, is it a horror movie?
That's a horror movie. Yeah, that's on
I have it as my second honorable mention.
Okay.
made my actual top 5. And I actually just recently watched 2 and 3, and they were surprisingly
Are
good.
you saying you hadn't seen 2 or 3 before?
I hadn't, no.
Oh wow, 2 is really. I mean, I think they're both really good, but 2
Yeah.
is like one of the best horror sequels, especially one that came out 20 years later. Like,
right. I was very impressed.
Like if you want to go with like legacy sequels, even though that wasn't a thing when that was made, it's one of the best out there.
Yeah. But yeah,
That's
part
yeah.
one of my top 5, and it's definitely a horror, Scotty. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Helped invent the genre to some degree.
What's that?
It helped invent the genre to some degree,
yeah,
or at least shepherd it in ways that it was just like B movies in the mid 50s heading into the 60s. You had a lot of like the sci-fi horror movies with Martians landing and big monsters attacking cities, Godzilla kind of ripoffs and things like that.
Yeah.
And this, I think we're getting more films that come from what Psycho brought us in today's day and age. Definitely the slasher to some degree, like the iconic horror villain. Even though we had Draculas and things like that already in the sphere, I think Norman's one of the first ones. It's like a regular person who scared the hell out of everybody and became iconic for that.
Right. And I think that's kind of the genre I like subgenre. I like, the crazy, I like crazy people. I like when there's a crazy person. I like there's some kind of mystery in there. Interesting story. It's definitely like takes things in the right direction, like you're saying, John.
Yeah, classic horror.
And when I haven't seen 2 or 3,
really?
I remember. Yeah, I know. Welcome to the show where I tell you all about all the movies that I've never seen.
It does surprise me sometimes, but Scotty, with your track record of loving sequels more than Herald originals, you are going to love Psycho 2. You are going to think it is the greatest movie you've ever seen because it is good.
It's very good.
I wouldn't put it ahead of Psycho 1, but you probably will.
Well, I remember I heard an interview with Quentin Tarantino, and he had talked to the director of Psycho 2, and it was wildly derided at the time for being even made. How dare you? It's kind of like how people treat 2010. Why would you do such a thing? And Tarantino was talking to the director and said, "What do you want from this movie?" And he's like, "The only thing I really want from this movie is if you think of something with Norman Bates, if you can't remember if it's from the first one or the second one. That's all I want. I just want you to acknowledge that they are, a pair."
Yeah.
And I find that interesting. And it's good to hear that it is good. And obviously, if I heard it from a Tarantino interview, he wasn't talking about something that he thought was shit, but like it's cool to know that is there. It's the same kind of deal with The Exorcist 3. It's like, why would you make another one after the failure that was the second one? And it's like, yeah, but you don't really have to. It's got nothing to do with Reagan, so you're cool.
I would say the director succeeded. You're talking about the director of Psycho 2 is who Quentin was talking to?
Yes.
Which is Tom Holland, Spider-Man.
Yes.
His name is Tom Holland.
I know. Australian.
Yeah, no. I was making sure Joanne knew I wasn't actually referencing Spider-Man. He went on to direct Child's Play, which I said, I thought was quality as well. So, but yeah, that's what Psycho 2 has, is quality, in my opinion. Like, it's up there as a really quality horror movie. But to your point of what the director was hoping to get out of it, I kind of have to agree, because when I think about Norman Bates, I personally do think about him at 2 different stages of life, which are those 2 movies, because he is so much younger. He is a boy, he's not a boy, but he's like, you can think of him as that kind of man child or whatever when he's in the original film, and he is much older in the second film, different stage of life, dealing with his past, but but that character is still the same person. He's still there. You know, Hopkins does such a great job Hopkins. Perkins, sorry.
Perkins, yeah.
Perkins does such a great job of like bringing that character back, kind of the way that like Sylvester Stallone is able to just jump back in the shoes of Rocky. Like,
sure,
it's really great to see him step back into that role so many years later. And I think the director did his job, because when I think of him in my head, there are moments I think of where he's in both ages, and so clearly that comes from this director's installment in the series.
And the third one is directed by Anthony Perkins himself.
Yeah, and it's good. It's not it's not as good as the second one, and the first one's like a stone cold classic, top 10, top 5 for Joanne.
But it's still good.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Great.
Well, I look forward to seeing that one too. I have.
You should check those out. And there's actually a TV movie for the fourth one where Perkins is still involved, and it's Olivia Hussey plays the mother. Like, that one's a little bit of a prequel and a sequel. It's worth checking out if you're going to go through the whole series. I would say you don't have to skip part 4 even. But it's
Juliet?
a TV movie, so it's a little neutered, from what you get in other films.
Olivia Hussey, she was Juliet?
Yes.
Oh, my stars. So I'm going to have to get a box set of Psycho movies.
Yeah, there you go.
Psycho movies. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Maybe I'll ship you a box, Scotty.
No! Okay, fine.
I wanted to bring up 2 slashers since we had kind of already done that. We were talking about, I had a little section of like new school horror movies, some of the newer movies that I have actually appreciated, and Hereditary was basically kind of leading that list. But the other 2 I would say are kind of the new, or could have been this new perfect trilogy of horror movies, of slasher movies, but it didn't quite work out. But Pearl and X, I still think Pearl and X are both unique. I guess Pearl isn't really a slasher movie. X, though, clearly is.
Yeah,
but they're both part of the new school of horror that I really appreciate at this for what we've got over the last like 10 years.
Right. I had Pearl on my honorable mention too. It was that was one of my one of my favorite movies of the last whenever it came out this decade.
Yeah. But I wish Maxine had just been just as good as those 2, because it's really a shame that it's now come and gone, and we don't have this perfect horror trilogy that just came out of nowhere and turned out perfect. Nope, we don't.
Yeah,
I liked it, but you're right.
I liked it, but yeah, I agree.
Like the first 2 are so good at establishing the batshit crazy, and when Maxine turns into what Nicolas Cage's characters didn't want in adaptation. It's like, we don't want to finish the third act with a car chase and people learning things about themselves. Like, it is almost, but also because it is set in the 80s and it takes so much from that 80s aesthetic and vibe. Like, I feel like it is a natural progression. I like it, but you're right. It doesn't kick into the third act of awesome that X and Pearl deserved.
Right.
It's a shame. Because
Looks Good says, did Scott just reference Talking Heads and no one noticed? No, everyone noticed. But thank you for mentioning it. Looks Good.
I may not have. What was your reference?
Oh, Psycho Killer or Psycho box set. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Okay. Now that you say it,
better.
I guess I wasn't paying that close attention when you in the moment when you said it.
Oh man.
But yes, big ups to David Byrne.
So yeah, I took us back for a second to bring up a couple new movies that new school movies, kind of one of them's at least a slasher. But yeah, the rest of what I have is more classic things that primarily all came out from 90s and older, mostly 80s and 70s. But
okay, before we go, because I want to double check on these. Like Babadook is that's a paranormal that I'm okay with.
I rewatched it this past year and didn't like it as much as I thought I did.
Yeah, but that's also, isn't that somewhat, and I guess this speaks to when you refer to quality, is
It's
the
quality.
rewatchability.
Yeah. It just wasn't, it was a movie I avoided because I thought it was kind of scary.
Sure.
And movies usually aren't scary, especially in this day and age.
Mhm.
And I was even labeling it with Hereditary, not just because it fits that description of what the fuck did they call it? The new horror movement of like the A24 horror movies. They gave elevated horror. Yeah, it fits that description. It is an elevated horror. I nominated the lead actress as a best actress nominee on the list because she really is that great. But I don't know, on this rewatch, I was rewatching it as a potential psychological horror movie for our mixer, and I just was like, it didn't work for me. It wasn't scary, which I thought it had been. It wasn't really scary at all, and it just wasn't as effective as the initial viewings. And I know I watched it more than once and thought that it was pretty good in all of those viewings, but this one, maybe I was comparing it to the other movies I was considering for the list, which ended up being like Black Swan, which is a best picture for me. But I kind of didn't connect with it on this most recent viewing.
Well, and for me, I agree with you wholeheartedly in terms of the lead actress in that movie. And I think that's why I connected with it, because of her conveying of terror. Like, she does such a great job. She's a scream queen who doesn't really scream. But it's also something with horror movies is once you've seen it once and you, like you said before, you know the tricks. So it's not going to jump out at you anymore. It does have to do something with the score, the pacing, cinematography, acting, everything else has to elevate it so that you still get that tension when you watch basically a comedy for the second time. Like, horror and comedy, I feel, are so reactionary as an audience. Like, you have to be surprised by something to dig it. And it has to be really good to be able to evoke that surprise a second time. And yeah, I was just thinking about The Babadook as being a boogeyman movie that I really liked. But again, I only saw it once. I never revisited it.
It's still good. Like, I'm not going to say it's not like it's a terrible movie. I thought I liked it and found it like, I honestly had avoided it for a long time because I thought it's kind of scary. I don't think I want to watch it. And I was like, this isn't scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's kind of what the character goes through in a way. So it's like, that's interesting.
And then the other, in terms of the new stuff, It Follows. I liked It Follows a lot.
I know that's one of Ben's favorite new school horror movies.
Like that, it's something that it's a weird social commentary while also being a relentless. It's almost like a Terminator. It's like it's never going to stop. It will always follow. And I like, again, being trapped in wide open spaces surrounded by people. Terrifying to me. So being alone in a crowd fucking sucks in a psychological way. I really, it affects me. But speaking of having one less person in the crowd, looks good. He's leaving. Good night, panel in chat.
We'll get to that. The picture she has as her little icon. I'm sure we'll be discussing that at some point here.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Looks good. Don't forget to share. So yes, you were saying before I rudely interrupted you with two other movies.
Who was saying? I was saying?
You were saying something.
Was I saying something?
Well, you talked about the Babadook. That was the
no. Well, you were going through the some of your new school options.
Yes.
And then I have a bunch that, as we talk about subgenres, I can throw some names out or whatever. We can go on with more of our top 5, whatever you want to do. But I was just pointing out pretty much everything else I have to mention is older, like more like 80s films. And I really just think that's the best era of horror, best era of filmmaking to some degree on every level, the 90s, 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But that's where my horror love pretty much lies.
I'm anxious to hear the rest of you guys' lists, to be honest, the top 5. That's what I'm most excited to hear.
Well, I'll rattle off because we've named a couple of these or similar movies to some degree. Let me cross off a few that we've already talked about. Candyman is gone. I wasn't even going to bring it up, but I did write it down for the new school because I don't really love the movie or like the movie, but it's so effective. It's never going to leave my head. The movie Inside, which I made Ben do a Christmas mixer on because the movie does take place on Christmas.
I haven't seen it, but I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a woman who stalks another woman on Christmas Eve to cut her baby out of her tummy.
Yeah.
And it is so viscerally violent and just
I'm gonna add it to my list.
And it's, I don't know. I think I've only seen it twice. I rewatched it with Ben. That was my second viewing, and it was just as effective. Like that's one of those ones. Even though I'd seen it, I didn't really remember all the details when watching it with Ben. But it's like, movies come back to you as you're watching it. You're like, I think this is what happens in this scene. But it was still super effective. Still like hard to sit through, hard to watch.
I'm sure that doesn't sound like an easy thing to watch.
Yeah, and that's not really my cup of tea. I like. I mean, my horror taste is kind of all over the place, but it's not. I wouldn't label that a torture porn, but it's torturous. The violence on screen is very torturous, and that's not necessarily my cup of tea. But
see, there's a subgenre. The torture porn. You get your Saws, your Hostels.
I was going to say, I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre really kind of fit that description back in the day more. It didn't exist then, but like I would put that more like it's been labeled as slasher because Leatherface feels like an iconic slasher villain, and the movies did become that kind of trope of like young teens or whatever being killed one by one. So it fit the description, but they also, every movie kind of has those dinner scenes that feel more like what torture porn or horror, torture porn horror is, and just the brutality of those movies, I would say, fits the genre as well.
Well, and it's interesting because I caught up with some clips. I don't know, for some reason, because I'm completely mentally balanced. They started feeding Hannibal Lecter clips at me, so I got Anthony Hopkins coming at me over my YouTube algorithm. And I watched the scene from Hannibal where Ray Liotta eats his own brain.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing that in theaters and being like, that's terrifying. But if you go and watch the entire movie, hard, slow drama, like not even a thriller. It's slow and atmospheric, but it doesn't actually, and it's weird that Ridley Scott did it. But it's just like it gores you out. It doesn't tense you out.
No.
And so just an interesting aside.
Kind of the same.
Represent This is here. Hello, Represent This.
Hello. Speaking of torture movies, and I wasn't going to mention this either, but I did watch Martyrs, that French one. I don't know if you've seen it.
I saw it right before watching Inside Out. I watched them back to back, or Inside Out. Inside Out.
What a double feature!
I had been told I have to see these French extremists. By the way, Inside is a French movie. I had been told I have to see these French extremist movies, and I had a couple of them, and the two that I watched back to back, because they were probably the two that were talked about the most. Like, you have to see these two, Martyrs and Inside. And Martyrs was like, huh? Why there's blood in the movie, but what's so disturbing about this movie?
You felt that way?
What's so profound and disturbing about the way the movie ends? Did I get a weird cut? Did not show me what other people? Is there an unrated version? Because I didn't see anything that scarred me.
Oh, I
So
didn't.
then-
Huh?
Well, you've seen it. What's so scarring about that movie?
Well, first of all, it was the constant torture on that poor girl the entire, for like 2 hours. That was very, very hard to watch. I mean, I don't know how you
But
hadn't
we've seen
even
torture
time.
porn. We've seen people get beat and
And-
okay, so she's filleted, but I didn't see anything. I don't understand it. They didn't show much.
Like she has I don't want to spoil it, but well, a couple of things at the end are very, very disturbing.
I don't know. I must have seen a version that did not show what everybody seems to think is so shocking.
Well, the physical part, the last thing they do to her physically, and then also when you find out like the reason they did it, none of that was disturbing.
Not in a stick with me kind of way. Like, no, not really. Not really. But to be honest, I probably was hating the movie because of its reputation. By the time I got to the end, I was like, and I really have a problem with French movies. I hate French, like contemplate life and stare out the window. And there was a little bit of that going on in this movie. And that's what the ending is contemplating life and the big questions and the profound questions. And I was like, this is French bullshit. Yeah, there's violence in the movie, but it's French bullshit. Then I pop in the movie that was considered, it's just the secondary horror movie you have to watch. And I watched Inside, and I was like, my brain, fucking crazy.
That was more effective then.
Way more effective.
I'll check that one out. That one out. But Martyrs was very, very disturbing for me.
I didn't get it, but I honestly questioned, did I watch a cut that does not show me some of what everyone...
I question that too.
Yikes. When you guys fight, it feels like it's my fault. Ben is here. Blake Robbins.
All right.
Is in Martyrs. That's nice. And
is he in the American version?
Yes, the American remake.
Must be, right? Yeah.
And Inside is way harder to watch. I don't know what happened with Martyrs. What happened? Why, Joanne? Can you see me at camera 2 for just 1 second? What happens in Martyrs that is very she gets filleted? What aside from that? What's the disturbing part?
Well, because the lady who makes it happen, like they want to know. They want to know what the person can endure, and then like what happens with them. I don't want to spoil the end.
Okay, then all right.
There isn't a profound. It's supposed to be profound, but I don't find it at all profound. We all ask this question. Everyone has asked this question, and nobody and they don't get an answer, and we don't know the answer for sure either. Like,
it's just I don't
not
know.
That profound.
Yeah, I don't know. You got to
2 hours to be like, ooh, this ending is some. I don't know.
Well,
anyway, we can move
right.
on because there's people who don't know what we're even talking about. But
what people?
French cinema. I'm not a big fan.
I know.
Even though I put Irreversible on this list. So
yeah.
So let's move on since Ben's here to
he's driving, so wish him luck.
Okay. Well, Ben will love to hear me mention Session 9. That's definitely an honorable mention that needs to be brought up. Psychological horror, I would say, a really great one in that subgenre. Also a little bit of a ghost movie. You could kind of call it a ghost movie to some degree, but definitely that's what's up for debate. Are there any real ghosts, or is it all just in people's heads? And I think it definitely plays out to be more psychological. Ooh, I got a creepy little kid looking at me from the side here.
Oh no.
Creepy kid movies, that's a subgenre.
Did they crawl out of the television? See, I'm surprised. We talked about anyway.
Yeah, I did bring up The Ring. I don't know if it was while you were gone.
It might have been when I was wrong. When I was gone. Did you guys talk about Saw at all, or does that because that goes into torture porn?
Yeah, we just brought it up.
I'm not a fan of that stuff or those movies.
Yeah.
I guess they just announced that they might not make any more Saws, and then they 2 days later were like, "No, just kidding. We'll still make more, but we don't know what we're doing yet."
Okay. Well, What was the Chris Rock Saw movie?
I never saw that one. It's called
Neither did
Spider.
I. And I like Chris Rock. So it's on the list. Well, maybe okay, so we've danced around for quite a bit. Shall we explain or just list our top fives?
I think so. Yeah, I think we need to continue with that.
All right. So shall we individually list our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s? Or
If
do you
that's
want to?
what we're doing, let me just throw out these honorable mentions real fast. I won't take any time on them. But
Sure.
okay, we talked about monster movies. These would fit into monster movies. American Werewolf in London, classic, love it. Surprised that I thought I had a lot of werewolf movies that I really liked as like a subgenre, because Ben and I one time were going to pick werewolf movies, and it was like, no, there's really only one that I really like, American Werewolf. There's a lot of bad werewolf movies. The Blob is another really fun 80s monster movie.
Yeah.
Great update from a 50s movie. And then one of the best monster movies of all time, and it's so amazing that it's a PG-13 monster movie, but just has all the excitement and thrills that a typical R-rated horror movie has, Tremors.
Oh,
Tremors,
Yeah.
such a fun, awesome monster movie, original concept monster movie, believable monster movie. I've never seen any of the sequels, but the original, awesome.
My dad celebrates everything with Michael Gross in it.
As should be.
As should be.
Phantasm 2, if you've never seen it, check it out.
Is it better than 1?
Yeah, 1 I don't really remember all that much. It's one I always want to rewatch to kind of see like the connections to 2, because I watch 2 a lot. And so but yeah, 2 super fun, great effects. Tall Man is really awesome in that one. If you like the Tall Man at all, like that's the one to see. You brought up Evil Dead, which I'm a big fan of, but Evil Dead 2, I'm a bigger fan of Evil Dead 2. It's just stepping up that production budget and all that blood spraying and all the effects that they bring in part 2, and the comedy. Like, it just has that different vibe. I would gravitate towards that one, but they're all good. I think all 3 Evil Dead ones are good. And then I guess the last 2 on the honorable mentions I'll mention is Pet Sematary, only because we just remembered it. But it's one of the scariest. Like, a lot of horror movies, even all these ones I'm mentioning, aren't all that, like, after you've seen them once or twice, or when you saw them as a kid, they were scary. But once you're an adult, like, they're not scary. You appreciate them. You love them for how effective they can be. But not many horror movies are scary. Actually, like, stick with you scary. Pet Sematary, I would say, is on that. Like, just the stuff with the kid, the stuff with Zelda, the look of Zelda. I don't want to bring the picture up again. It's too creepy.
That's on my honorable mention list too. I love the story, and great story, and I actually, what's that?
Very sad story.
Like, it is sad, and it's one of those movies that really made me think a lot. Like, what if I was in that person's situation? Like, I can actually see why these people ended up in the situation because of the emotional. I had an emotional connection with those people. Yeah. And also the remake. I actually enjoyed the remake. I don't know if you saw it, John.
I did, but I don't remember. I felt like it was just kind of a sad attempt to remake the original.
So I enjoyed it because they stuck with the story, but they changed a few things to where I was like, oh, that's interesting that they changed that. It kind of surprised me a little bit where they changed up a few things, and I thought it was interesting. But anyway, yeah.
But yes, Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
Classic. Okay. Everything else, I have one more to mention, honorable mention, because we haven't mentioned it yet. No one has. It could end up on somebody's list, but The Omen.
Yep, that's on my honorable mention as well.
Okay. like I gravitate towards that one more than The Exorcist. I didn't even really include The Exorcist, but I could. I mean, I agree The Exorcist is up there with all of these movies I've been mentioning, but it's not a fun movie. And The Omen isn't that really fun either, but I have a lot more fun with The Omen.
I totally agree with you.
But as Christians, The Omen is a kind of a hard watch to sit through and like take stock in your faith while watching it and buying into this is coming. The story of The Omen comes from the Bible, not everything. There's still Hollywood mixed in there, but the basis of it comes from the Bible, and that makes it pretty damn frightening.
It is, but also as Christians, I like the sequels, the closure.
Yeah, so, I'm a fan of the sequels too. I mean, part 2 definitely. I don't think 3. Again, like if 3 was as good as close to what 2 was, I would say, then you'd have pretty good like trilogy there. But 3 is a pretty big letdown in my opinion. But the conclusion is nowhere near as good as what 1 and 2 are.
Right, as a movie, but I enjoy the conclusion.
Sure. It's a messy movie though. Yeah, you get to the conclusion we all expect to happen, but it's a messy movie to get you there. But anyway, everything left. I'm a cheater. I have 6 left, but whatever.
I know.
It's my top 5. We already mentioned Jaws, so technically I have 5 left to mention. So there.
Okay, great.
I have 3 honorable mentions. I don't know if you guys talked about Cabin in the Woods. It is basically your best of greatest hits horror movie. It covers
it last night.
It covers all the bases. And I love the cast, and I think it's fantastic. And you know what? Good horror movies don't necessarily need a happy ending. Christine, speaking of slashers, the car slasher, I got to see that for the first time last year, and I love that flick very, very much. And I thought, and I thought that was fantastic. Also, if we're going to talk about werewolf movies, Wolfen. Albert Finney is phenomenal. Anyway, and then Get Out. Going back to my cult, people who are trapped, surrounded by people who are not going to help you. And I think Get Out does a really good job at making that terrifying. Plus, what's her name? Allison Williams? Listening to Wilson Phillips is great.
Did that make your top 5, Joanne? I know you really liked it.
Absolutely, yeah. I was thinking about our favorites from each decade the other day, and I was like, a lot of them. You would think it would make sense that all of them would make it to here, but not all of them did. But Get Out did.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, Rock It To Me acapella.
Yeah, what ones have you not mentioned? You don't have to rattle them all off right now, but what's another 1 or 2 that you haven't mentioned from your list?
All right, I'm just because I have too many on my list. Let me go through the ones that I wrote down that I considered as the top 5, and then I ended up starring 7 of them because I had to cheat 2. But I'm just gonna list everything else that I mentioned that I haven't mentioned yet that I didn't end up starring as a 7. So just really quick, Black Phone, The Others, Annihilation, Barbarian, It, Identity, What We Do in the Shadows, because that was so funny.
It's a horror comedy, yeah.
Yes. Audition. Have you guys seen the Japanese movie called Audition?
I've heard of it, and I'm terrified of it. That one you can call me a pussy about.
I saw it like about a year ago. It was excellent. Oculus, that was another one that actually scared me for a while. Oculus is an excellent movie.
Is that the one where the kids want to destroy the mirror?
Yes, the mirror. Yeah, it's the kids.
There's another one I think called Mirrors with like Kiefer Sutherland, but this is the one where like the brother and sister want to destroy the mirror.
Yeah, they're grown up now. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really, really good. Zodiac, Don't Breathe, Creep. I don't know if you guys ever seen Creep. That's another like found footage type that and I saw like they have like 2 of them. The Ring, I said, Strange Darling I put in, and the Substance I put in. Silence of the Lambs and The Shining, which was like very hard to not put in my top 7. It's just ended up being one of those that like I don't rewatch too many times. So, but that's okay. So all that's left now is like my top 7.
Welcome to the top 5 show.
Yes.
And I had a top 6.
And you've got a top 6. Well, okay, so we'll go to ascending order. I'll start first because I have 5, because obviously I'm afraid of all the movies that I don't want to see. As I mentioned before, my number 1 with a bullet is Requiem for a Dream. My number 2 is Alien, the first one. That is the monster movie. I know The Fly is there, but instead of the monster being the first victim, the monster on the ship, I find the first Alien terrifying. I do kind of put the second one into action horror. So I was more terrified the first time watching the first Alien. Especially because I had seen Aliens first and I didn't know where to. I was like, oh, okay.
I think I did too.
Number 3.
I saw Aliens first as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I still, you'll hear where Alien falls on my list.
I will. I look forward. My number 3 is Battle Royale. I love that movie because, again, it's one of those things that's a little bit more practical. You can suspend your disbelief and there's no ghosts or nothing, but it's just people devolving to their worst bases to survive. And yeah, I love that movie. I don't watch it as much as I should. And then Night of the Living Dead is, I love the black and white. No horror movie should have a happy ending. And that one has one of the darkest at the end. No, that I didn't mean it that way. But yeah, I think Night of the Living Dead is one of the first horror movies that I saw that actually I was just like, because it was black and white and because it was violent and because it was people fighting each other while the threat stood outside and it wasn't the biggest threat. Again, hell is other people. That's my horror funny bone. And then I'm going to completely turn everything on its ear and say that my number 5 is The Shining. I adore it. Nice. And that's also because it's not a movie about ghosts. It's about a movie about abusive alcoholics. So don't get trapped. Don't get trapped in a hotel with an abusive alcoholic.
Right.
So that's my 5.
All right.
Nice. Good picks there. I share a couple with you. So yeah, I'll just go next.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting when you said that you were talking about no horror movie should have a happy ending. And so I started looking at my list and I'm like, you're kind of right there. Like all these good ones are not happy endings. Although my number 6 pick, I would say, is technically a happy ending. The Lost Boys. And
okay.
And it's a horror movie, so you can still have a classic, but you're kind of right. Like so many of the best ones are not a happy ending, and that's the way it should be. And it's a big part of why they're probably super effective. That they don't have to just tidy it up and have some type of happy ending. Like, we are a horror movie. We're going to stick to what this is all about, and people are going to be dead at the end of this or living in some kind of torment and torture. I mean, when you think about The Fly and Psycho and The Omen and Evil Dead 2 and American Werewolf and Pet Sematary, none of those have happy endings. They're people are in torment at the end of those movies. But yeah, Lost Boys is my number 6, but the rest of the list, not happy endings. Number 5, Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Which some people don't classify as a horror. I do. I think it's, he is a classic horror villain at this stage, and it's, kind of psychological horror or serial killer horror, but whatever subgenre it needs to fit in, the overall, I would say, it classifies as horror. My number 4 would be The Thing. John Carpenter.
I knew that would be on your list.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
And I think that's my favorite subgenre, I would say, is monster movie, because when you think of like Aliens is a monster movie, Jaws is a monster movie, The Thing is a monster movie, like that is kind of my favorite subgenre overall. So yeah, my number 4 is The Thing. My number 3 is Alien. I do classify Alien as a horror movie first and foremost, even if Aliens, is a bit of a mix with a lot of different genres. I think that Alien fits that haunted house in space description so well that that's the description of a horror movie. So
no doubt it is. It qualifies.
I have no problem classifying that one in the horror genre. Number 2 is The Shining.
Good.
And then the number 1 we already talked about is Jaws. And I find it interesting that I have Shining as number 2. You have Shining as number 5. Joanne had it as, I think, her first honorable mention, like just barely missed the list or whatever it was. So we all have it up there. And it's like one person dies in it. It's got creepy stuff going on all throughout, but like it's totally, I don't know, it's just such a weird anomaly because it's totally a horror movie. But it doesn't, there's so many things missing that you get from your standard horror movie. Not a lot happens in the movie, but so much does. I don't know. It's just such a weird movie. Like that's Kubrick for you. But it's at the top of so many people's lists as a horror movie, yet not a lot happens in it that, not like people are dying. That's what you expect when you think of a horror movie. Yeah, there's scary stuff and disturbing stuff all throughout. I guess that's all you need for a good, effective horror movie. But it's just such a weird anomaly that it's like one person dies in The Shining and it's considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
Two.
Well, yeah. Sorry, Jack. Okay. Yeah, go to the restroom, buddy. Go. I got to take my son to the restroom.
Sure.
So, now I don't know if I should actually go. I don't want him to miss my whole list, but I don't know if I mentioned Silence of the Lambs. I did write it down on my list. I don't know if I missed it when I was reading, but that is definitely a great one. Great acting, and I feel like it's like the movie of that year for sure. Okay, good. You're already back. So yeah, the 7 that I ended up starring. So 10 Cloverfield Lane. I really, really enjoyed that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm definitely like a thriller person. I like being on the edge of my seat. And I just remember like just wanting to know what was going to happen during that whole entire movie. And John, I don't know if you remember when we were in the theater, another funny theater experience. Right.
I remember it was my birthday movie.
It was your birthday movie. That's right. It was your birthday movie. We had a party afterwards. But in the theater, as soon as it ended, me and Blair both ran to the bathroom. And you looked around and you're like, what happened? And it was because we both had to go so bad for so long.
But you're both so into the movie, you couldn't get up.
Right.
That's the sign of
so
a good
I
movie.
think that's a sign of a great movie.
Blair just has a little bladder, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So that was on my top 7. Then I have The Fly. So that's one of my top movies of all time. I mentioned Psycho already, so Psycho is on there. I mentioned Get Out. One that I'm kind of surprised hasn't come up yet is The Sixth Sense. So that's on there. I know some people don't consider it a horror, but like it is. It's dead people, it's ghosts. It's,
yeah, it's a ghost story. So I would put it in the horror genre. Also, drama. I don't have a problem, calling it a drama and a horror, but it can certainly be classified as a horror. It's a really well-made movie, but I wouldn't like. Just didn't make my list. But yeah, it's a great movie.
But
Yeah.
Ghost Story is a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
Ghost Story, and it had some creepy scenes in there, like when the little girl's like throwing up, like that's creepy stuff, but yeah, that was just such a great movie, and I love M. Night Shyamalan. I'm a huge fan. I like most of his movies. A lot of people kind of turned on him, and I like the majority of his movies. That's definitely his best one, though.
Yeah.
And then I've got, this is actually cheating because I put these as one movie. I like both Let the Right One In and Let Me In.
Oh, that's fine.
Those are great. They're both. I know, John, I know you prefer the American one, but I love them both. They both got good stuff about them, and just like what a nice, touching story. Like that's a horror movie that is like, to me, it's not that scary. I mean, obviously it's got to be horror. It's vampires. Bad stuff happens, but it's just kind of like it's like a touching movie to me.
It can be kind of a beautiful love story or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's also revealed that it's like servitude, and
right.
Therefore it's not a beautiful story.
Yeah, no, I know, but yeah, in my mind, it's a beautiful story still.
I find it beautiful too, but
yeah,
there's another side to it. It just depends on the way you look at it in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And my number one was also Jaws. So
yes,
we both had the same same number one. That's like, it wins because I also love monster movies. John, you remember all the B movies I like to watch? I even tried watching Frogs, which you warned me about, and you tried to warn me, but I was hoping for more. But I love all of the stupid like ant movies, flying bees, spiders, all that stuff. But Jaws is that's just the best one, and it just like it affects you for so long. It affects you for your entire life. I don't know how many times. I grew up here in Florida. I don't know how many times I had dreams of being in my swimming pool and Jaws shows up.
Yeah, you could be in bodies of water that there's no way Jaws could show up, like your bathtub, and it still affects you.
Right. So yeah, and then I can watch it as many times as anybody wants to. And anytime someone says let's put Jaws on, I'll watch it. So it just checks off so many boxes. It's fun to watch. It's like I said, it can qualify as a slasher, qualify as a monster movie, just like so many good things about it. So
yeah,
that's
not a great score. Like it. I mean, not that a lot of these films don't have all the elements you want in filmmaking, but like it hits all the marks. It's one of the best movies ever made. Not just movies.
Represent this in the chat says my honorable mentions would be Return of the Living Dead, Evil Dead 2, and Poltergeist.
Nice.
Good choices.
Yeah, good choices.
Ben says Aliens is way more terrifying than Alien. I don't know. I think exploring the life cycle of the xenomorph in the first one scared me more than the hordes of them. But it depends. It depends. It depends on whether or not you don't want to get ripped apart by them or if you don't want to get raped in the face. It's up to you. For represents this says for their favorites, number one is Alien, and the Thing are tied for number one. See, you could have done ties. Prince of Darkness.
Oh.
The Shining, The Hitcher. Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, The Hitcher is great.
And then Psycho 2.
And Psycho 2.
Right.
Psycho 2 getting some top 5 love right there.
All right.
And Ben says my all-timer is still to this day has to be The Shining.
Yeah.
With Session 9 not far behind.
Right.
And represent this says lots of ways to look at The Shining. It's a deep film. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you guys are going to talk about it next year. Mark your calendars.
All right.
Ben says The Lost Boys is the best vampire movie ever made.
It is very good, but I think I
was waiting for either support or denial.
Well, I agreed. I put it as number 6 on my list, and yes, it's the best
I
vampire
love
movie.
it. I love it, but I obviously ranked Let Me In and Let the Right One In higher.
Oh yeah. No, those are up there for sure.
I should have given an honorable mention for Cube. For some reason, I left Cube out.
Cube is a great one.
Yeah.
So a runner-up Best Picture for me.
And Ben says Bruce wins the day. Yes. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I again, maritime adventure, but I dig the rationale. I'll give it an honorable mention.
Joanne, you did your whole list, right?
Yeah, I think that was everything.
You must have missed one. Where is the insane clown posse movie that you made us watch?
Yeah.
Whatever that clown documentary.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
Right.
What was it called? Man. I can't remember.
That was I don't remember the title, but I did think about Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I did think about putting that on there for real. It was actually hard to even put this, however many I had, like 20. It was even hard for me to do that because, there's a lot of good thrillers that are like sort of bordering on a horror. And so it was really difficult. I told Scotty, I kind of like shot myself in the foot. I chose the topic for tonight. I said, let's do top 5 horror. And I'm like writing down 50 of them and agonizing over it. So
it's, there's so many great movies. It's hard to pick.
Yeah. I watched a lot of funny slashers in the last year or so too. I find a lot of slashers to be funny actually, but there were some that were supposed to be funny. It's just a lot. I realized in trying to come up with my list that horror covers a lot more than you might actually think initially.
Oh, and there are so many are left off the table, like, Shaun of the Dead. Well, Shaun of the Dead, Last Night in Soho for Edgar Wright. Like, you've got, and that's the thing is that I didn't want to stray into the horror comedy too much. That's why Cabin in the Woods got a honorable mention instead of, because it is a greatest hits.
Right.
But it's all over
great ones, like What We Do in
Troll
the Shadows.
2.
Yeah. Like
even Evil Dead 2 is a bit of a horror comedy. And Army of Darkness, they're both kind of horror comedies to some degree.
Yeah. Well, and I like Freddy versus Jason. Like, it's a fun movie.
Yeah. It's fun to be had.
So
I'm glad we got it. Like with some of the proposed, versus movies out there, like that's one that it'd kind of be a shame if at this point we still didn't have that.
Well, and now all we have to have is the Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. And we'll be...
the time's probably passed. I mean, not that Bruce Campbell couldn't pull it off, but if they had done it back when they had planned to, it would have been perfect.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that is our top 5s.
Yeah, that was great. It was so fun to talk about everything leading up to our top 5 list. Obviously, we all have a lot to say on this topic.
No, it's fantastic.
That genre's out there. I could talk all day about horror movies.
Yeah,
but I only watch them during September and October. Like I try to save. I mean, unless maybe in the theater there's a new one and I'm going to go see it or something. But I don't spend a lot of time at home popping in horror movies unless it's that period of the year. And then that's all I watch during that 2-month period.
Or it's Christmas time and you watched Hereditary, the scariest movie.
Yeah, you're right. There are the random times. That's when I was keeping up with new movies and trying to make sure I see them all. But
well, it's like I don't like watching movies about the wintertime in the wintertime, except for Christmas movies. And I don't like watching movies about the summertime in the summertime. I like my temperatures and seasons to work with each other.
Right.
But I did want to say thank you so much to the chat this evening. Thank you to Anti-Derivative Jill for being here. Check out her channel. Protein, thank you so much for being here. Franco Walker for dropping in and dropping out. He was tired. Bumpmaster 1, thank you. And yeah.
Ben, hope you made it home safe.
Suck me sideways. Looks good. Thank you for being here. Shelley Duvall. Lemon, always a pleasure. And Ben, yeah. So glad you could be here. Represent this. Thank you very, very much. And I think that's everybody. If I missed you, I am a bad, bad person. So, yeah. Thanks again, Joanne. Lovely, beautiful, beautiful tight or choice on the topic. And John, how was I? Did I interrupt too much tonight? Was I too drunk?
I was going to say thank you for hosting. Great job.
Great job. Thank you, Scotty.
Thanks for being in charge and keeping things flowing, and both of you being available to still put on a show tonight. I know Ben gets busy with work, so it's nice that Cinema Gulp can still be out there with some other familiar faces. And I can't always make it to the Wednesday shows, or sometimes I have to show up late, but I'm usually always listening if I can't make it. So I'm glad that this is a thing that we're able to try and keep going, even if Ben's not always around.
Well,
but it is weird. It's weird that this show's going to end and Ben hasn't been on, because the only other show I did without Ben, he made it by the end. So it's like, this is still weird.
At least he sent in some chats.
Yes, he's definitely here in spirit.
He's still here.
And in text form.
Well, and thank you guys. It is fantastic to be able to hang out with OG Cinema Gulpers. So thank you. And that's it. Like, sign off catchphrase. What do we say?
Is there a proposed topic for potential next week if everyone makes it? I'm not sure.
We find out on Sunday.
Yeah.
If you come up with one earlier, you got more time to watch movies.
This is true. And if anybody wants to drop any suggestions in the chat,
what's coming out in the theater next week or this?
I
don't,
because
that sometimes helps you come up with a topic.
Yeah, that's true. But I do want to see Black Bag this weekend.
Oh, that's true too. Oh, we could do Soderbergh retrospective.
There you go.
I'll just sit here and talk about Ocean's 11.
Well,
anyway,
right.
No, we'll figure it out, and we will let you guys know. Meaning the audience, the illustrious audience. So that's it. We're out. Let's go. I'm done.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
We drink your cinema.
Yes, we do.